Hi.
Hi.
So Rhodes, if you can see, this is our timeline, your family tree, and we started with Audley, and we have him born, and when he died, when he came here with Henrietta. And with her father, we found all of them in the cemetery.
Oh, you found
Yeah. One question that we had was, do you know why they left Tennessee in the first place?
Well, evidently it was for homesteading up here in this area, getting homesteads, and the Galbraiths homesteaded up the river here, and that must have been, I suppose, that's the main deal that brought them, that they came out for.
Okay, and it looks like her father came with them and then died shortly after.
He was the first one that they buried in the second cemetery, I was told.
Yeah. Then we have your dad, Audley Jr., A.A., and Minnie, who became a Hellier, and Naomi. And what was your nickname? Was it Nay? Did you call her Nay or Na?
Aunt Nay, yes.
Aunt Nay.
Aunt Nay. Yeah, it was Aunt Nay.
Yep. And she married William. And then Joe, we don't know who he married.
He married
And we know he had Gail, but we don't know.
Claire Wise.
Oh, okay.
Claire Wise.
Claire.
Yeah.
So that
He met her over at the St. Luke's Hospital, I think, when he was pretty fond of her, and so they tell me he used to fix up chicken and take to her and stuff like that. And eventually, then he married her then.
Okay, that makes total sense. And then there was Will, who married Herschel, and Hugh, who married
Pauline Betts.
Yeah. So then there's you. There you are, right here.
Yeah.
And Linda and Claire, and we don't have any information about Glenn. Okay.
Brother. That was Glenn and Claire were brothers.
Okay.
And they reminded me of the family of Uncle Joe and Uncle Harold. We were out in front, sitting out in front of the house in the car, and Robert Pettigrew was there, and Glenn and Claire came walking on the sidewalk by the big house, going out that way, and Robert says, "Here comes Uncle Joe and Uncle Harold," and he met Glenn and Claire, and it remind them so much of them, and I thought that was kind of clever.
Yeah. Who are the Victor? There's a Victor H and another generation of Victor, and we have some pictures with him in, but we don't know who he is.
Well, he was a cousin of my dad's, I think, was probably first cousin, I think, but I'm not too sure on that. And Victor and Irwin was his son, Irwin.
Okay.
Victor and Irwin, and he was married for a while, and then I guess they split up, and later, I mean, after they'd been married a while, evidently they did. But Irwin was always a real friend of ours, and he stood up with me when I got married. Irwin did.
Oh, he did?
Mother says, "Yeah, ask Irwin," and so I did, and he was with Ida and me in our wedding ceremony down in the First Baptist Church in Cedar Woolley.
Okay. Do you know why this area was named Saxon?
Well, Saxon, I think, was up here, south of here. I believe is what they call Saxon. Now, why? I think there's a Mrs. Saxon had the post office up there, I believe.
Okay.
And that's where they got.
That would make sense.
I think, I mean, that could be it.
Yeah, it sounds like a part of your family lived in Oregon.
They did.
They did.
Yeah, but my dad took me down there when I got drafted to go in the service. He knew I was going to go in the service, so we went down to see Uncle Jess and his wife, down around close to Salem somewhere.
Okay.
We went
that
down there
makes
and we
sense.
stayed a couple of days with them down there.
Uh-huh.
And that bothered my dad when I got drafted because he did his best to keep me from going in the
Oh,
service.
he did.
And so, but the Lord spoke to me, and when I got the call to go in after he got me deferred for, I think for 6 weeks or something, about 2 weeks or so, I got a call, and the Lord spoke to me and said, "Don't tell anybody that I got my call." And so I went in then, and he didn't like that. He wanted me to stay, not go in.
Yeah.
And so I went in, but I got in just a perfect place. I was in there for about 2.5 years in the Air Corps quartermaster, and it was just like being a civilian with army clothes on, with a group of fellows that some of them came from California. They were in a basement, and they started this new base there at Pecos, Texas, new air base there,
Okay.
and new base. And we just had a time. We just about did what we wanted to, as long as we were, took care of the work.
Right.
Well, we had our own hours. Once in a while, a big supply truck would come in with provisions, and we'd go out in the night, in the evening or early morning, and unload it. And after that, we'd just go down to get our breakfast and go back to our barracks. And then when we got ready, well, then we'd go back to work. We kept track, so we always somebody there to take care of things,
Right.
And it was just a riot. And Aunt Minnie suggested that I write to him every day. But I told her, I said, I wouldn't have anything to tell him every day. But I told her I would write to him. And so probably once a week or so, I'd write. Or maybe more often than that. I don't remember, but I'd write.
So he'd know you were okay.
And then he'd always walk up the mailbox, which was out about half a mile or so. And he'd walk up there waiting for the mail to see if I wrote a letter.
What's one of your earliest memories of being a child here?
Well,
What do you think?
when
Remember when you think of being a kid?
Well, when we were down at the house, my dad took a couple shingle mail cabins and put them together to make a house for us. And so we then in the orchard, had a kind of orchard in the back of the house, and there were chicken boxes for the 3 or 4 chickens in it, and just cages. And so Jean, we'd go and look for eggs, and she'd peel up in there and get the eggs in those boxes where the hens lay an egg. But the hen was still sitting up there on the nest, and so I pulled her hand back. I said, because I was afraid she'd get, the hen would peck her, and the hen did pick her. And so she had to put her hand in there, and she did. And she went crying to the house, and I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. But anyway, she didn't get an egg that time, but when she put her hand up there, but I remember that's the plane. And I must have been about, I don't know, 3 years old or so.
Wow.
And I know we'd walk out, and they had some geese out there, and the geese would attack us, whip us with their wings. I remember that, getting whipped with the geese. And out there in the yard, but other than that, I don't remember too much about.
Yeah.
They started the new house, what they call the new house then. That was in 1922 or somewhere in there when they started that. And the fellow the carpenter stayed with them down there. That's what I was told. I don't remember too much about it.
Yeah.
But, and then they'd walk over there, and so I always liked to see what's going on over there and at the house. And I know one time why, I guess the carpenter put a bunch of trash or something in the stove. They had the chimney in the stove, and evidently the chimney caught on fire, and the smoke was coming out pretty heavy. And so my dad went running over out that direction, but it was a chimney fire, and so.
Yeah.
But in those days, they didn't have any wire, just a hand pump to get water.
Right.
No, no electricity down there, anything like that. And so it was kind of a dangerous situation.
Sure.
When you come to think of it, but
yeah. Did everybody kind of help each other in situations when it was necessary?
They did that a lot in the haying time and stuff. Putting in hay and filling silos, why we'd go up and help the neighbors
Uh-huh.
And
Who
that,
were your neighbors?
the Mailings,
Okay.
Henry Mailing, his dad, and then his granddad, and his granddad was quite a fella.
Yeah.
He Henry liked him. Now and then he wanted to, when we were visiting down at the house and that one, he wanted to get in on the say something about, and Mr. Mailing would say, well, this was Norman instead of the other brother, and he'd say, Norman, you shut up. You don't know nothing.
Oh my.
And I always thought, my, what a cruel thing for a dad to tell his son.
Uh-huh.
And that's stuck with me.
Yeah.
You know how anybody would want to treat their son like that.
Yeah. Did you go skiing?
Oh yeah,
Did you, being so close to the mountain?
yeah. We'd go
Yeah.
skiing on the weekends. Saturdays we'd drive up there to Mount Baker, and we made kind of a ski rack for the car and put our skis on that, and go up there with the neighbors and take some of them with us and ski through the day. We'd drive on the ice and snow up to Mount Baker and back again. Think nothing of it in those days.
And how would you stay up like all day and come back?
Well,
and,
yeah, well, about probably 4 or 5 hours, so like that. Well, maybe 4 or 5 hours.
And did you make your own skis?
I bought a pair of skis,
Uh-huh.
and then Aunt Haugen, my neighbor, made some nice skis for me. But some way or another, when Don and Lois were there and sold a bunch of stuff, why they sold the skis, and I sure hated that. I lost those skis because they looked just like factory made. And my dad and I had got a crabapple tree across the pond, and he and Anton sawed it out, sawed the boards out on that, and made my skis, and he made himself, he liked to jump. He didn't make a ski jump. And so he made a pair for himself and a pair for me. And he'd jump out there about 80 or 100 feet, sail through the air, and then land down on the hill. That was skiing, what he thought anyway. I mean, they called that skiing, but I never got that far along in
Did you
it.
cross country skiing?
Well, yeah, we'd go up, just to go up through the trees there and back up on the hill and down to the car. We'd leave the car and go on up and ski on up there for maybe, I don't know, probably, maybe not quite a quarter mile, I guess, but anyway, it's quite a little ways up.
Yeah. And where did you go to elementary school? I know you went to Mount Baker High School, but was there a grade school or a primary school?
Yeah, at Saxon, just across from the cemetery was where the Saxon grade school was, and a 2-room, one of these big square 2-room, first 4 grades in one room, and the next 5 and 6, 7, 8 in another room, in the building, and we had them. My cousin, I think was Bill Pettigrew, bought the property later on when they tore down the building, and then he had me with my little bulldozer shove the foundation over the bank for him, level it out. And I thought, well, boy, when I was going to school here, I never dreamed I'd be shoving the foundation of the building over the bank.
Did you like school?
I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it too much.
Uh-huh.
After I got used to it, it was kind of hard at first. When I first started, my mother kept me home for my first grade and taught me, and then I went to school about a month or so at the end of the first grade, and then started the second grade after, and I got by that way. My mother was a school teacher, and that's how come. Yeah, and she liked to teach anyway, and she'd help out in the community around there. She helped out in Van Zandt and down at Wickersham. They needed a teacher, and I think they paid her $35 a month or something like that. Pretty big pay for teaching. for teaching school, but she'd do it just to help out the community.
Sure, huh? And what did your dad do?
He milked cows, had
Okay,
just a few
okay.
cows. That's all he wanted.
Yeah.
Mess around with cows.